He said, I don't want to die today. Specifically, he said, I don't want to get clapped out today. The children certainly were more brave than the police. One officer yelled into that room, if there's anybody in there, let us know. The child cried out, said, I'm in here. The gunman went back into that room. 4 shots were fired, and that child was killed.
Amy Goodman.
I've got a question for you. When was the last time you heard a news story about a serial killer terrorizing a community? 15. Maybe 20 years ago. Some say the news doesn't report on them anymore to avoid giving the killer notoriety. Now, unfortunately, the only news about communities being terrorized comes from those hired to serve and protect, the police. The number of serial killers rose, but in the late 1990s, there was a whopping 78% decline. Why were there so many back then? And why so many stopped everything they were doing? Just because we don't hear about them anymore doesn't mean people with a sociopathic killer's mindset went away. We can't believe those people who have that much evil inside of them just don't exist anymore. In fact, it's getting worse. These people are smart. Remember Ted Bundy?
Right, young man.
His trial judge even commented on how smart he was representing himself. Most all of these killers have one thing in common, a thirst for power and control, just like gangs. Another commonality among serial killers, and some of the worst, is that they lived normal lives, had families, homes, and jobs. They didn't do drugs. A perfect example is the BTK killer, Dennis Rader, who terrorized Kansas for decades, taunting the public and deriving enjoyment from it. Ever since D.N.A. started matching cold cases, these evil people had to find other ways to continue their terror and implant fear in Americans. They not only seek power and control but are also manipulative and cunning, capable of infiltrating the system to work for them. They have did just that. Infiltrated law enforcement, rising to positions like supervisors, commanders, police chiefs, district attorneys, and judges. These sociopaths are out there in police cruisers, secretly hiding or blending in. All these news reports and true stories. It's just them slipping up. I can't imagine how much more we don't see. I am an empath, where I feel others' energy, with empathy. These people are sociopaths, psychopaths, they are paths. But instead they choose to feel evil, death and mayhem. Something else most do not know. Though still mourning, the community came together. The Rushing Estates Knowles Mortuary echoed their support for the Uvalde community, giving free funeral services for the victims, whom again, many had to have closed casket services, due to the slaughter of these kids. Omar Rodriguez, the owner of a car detailing business, made 250 hamburgers to raise funds for the victims' families. Rodriguez set up a large grill type of venue with tables, and his family and friends grabbed rags and soap buckets to wash cars for donations as well. Carlos Hernandez, owner of the restaurant Carlito's Way in Uvalde, cooked and gave away more than 60 family-sized platters to feed families and neighbors still suffering in their loss. There were also several strangers not even from Texas, who drove 7 to 8 hours to help in any way they could. Now, listen to this, the police. The huge number of heartless, trash of humans who just stood there while children perished, have not lifted a finger within the community for any support of any kind whatsoever. Not one cop offered their condolences, nor did they offer their time and energy on giving back to the community for their losses. It's just sick. I could not imagine living in Uvalde and being pulled over by one of these scumbags, trying to give me a ticket. According to the active shooter guidelines in the Commission on Law Enforcement's 2020 training manual, all law enforcement in the U.S. are trained to move in and confront an attacker. It continues to say, as first responders, we must recognize that innocent life must be defended. A first responder unwilling to place the lives of the innocent above their safety should consider another career field. What it should say is this: and any officer who willfully and unlawfully violates this rule will be subject to legal ramifications of a Class 2 felony and other charges where applicable. For failure to adhere to this order, including but not limited to, the loss of employment and any future employment with law enforcement. That's why the sociopathic murderers we call the police, like so many others, have gotten off scot-free. I have been saying and hinting at clues in my videos for far too long now. So, here it is. My warning to everyone is, they are taking over law enforcement, and I have the proof to show you all and will continue to do this. Share this please. And if you know anyone who's in Uvalde, please try and send them this video. And I tell you all, wait till the end. You will not believe what I've uncovered.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth.
I mean, to me, it's clear that they're covering up something.
And listen, I want to be
massive
upfront with you. We're doing something different tonight. Something,
Please don't
frankly,
look
it's
away.
extremely difficult. But we truly believe that it's important to do. You know, there's a tendency to want to turn our eyes from what is difficult. A tendency to just want to move on. It's human nature. I understand, and believe me, I understand that. And sometimes the news does require a shift in focus. 3 reasons. First, and most importantly, because the families, please don't, of
Look
the
away.
19 beautiful children and those 2 brave teachers who were killed on May 24th, they deserve answers. The survivors deserve answers. The entire community deserves answers. And we can't put the right questions to the police who responded or the local and state governments until we confront head on exactly what happened. Please don't look away. And the second reason why, we know that you've seen parts of this agonizing video, maybe 30-second clips here, maybe a minute there, the bits with the most action, so to speak. But it is actually the lack of action that speaks volumes about the response. I mean, minutes pass, and an entire hour, and nothing happens, and I'm left wondering, you're left wondering how and why, and what does it really mean? Out of respect for the victims' families, and we still maintain that respect. And I understand that's incredibly painful for them, and the last thing
Please
we would
don't
ever,
look away.
that anyone would ever want to do is to compound their grief. But the video, which was obtained by the Austin American-Statesman, was published in full on the paper's website. Now here's what you will not see and you will not hear. You will not hear the children screaming. That was edited out by the Austin American-Statesman because it's too graphic. Can you think of anything more painful to hear? But while we won't tonight be hearing those painful sounds, remember the officers there, they could hear. There was no editing of that moment.
The public ought to know is that the actions of the officers really are consistent with active shooter trainings.
Remember the officers there, they could hear. There was no officers that moment. The officers there, they could hear. There was no editing of that moment.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
What Amy doesn't know, which investigators would later uncover, is that the door is not set to lock automatically, as it should have been. So despite her efforts, the door doesn't lock and could not have been locked from the inside.
The case is dismissed. That's orchestrated.
okay? Understand that shit. Know that that's orchestrated, okay?
It makes me, quite frankly, extremely angry. When I think of the parents that now have this knowledge, that officers didn't do what their most basic oath was. They took an oath that their life would be sacrificed for others if it came down.
Gunshots that were still being fired while these guys were sitting out there. If you continue to watch, I mean, again, this is 77 minutes, but if you continue to watch, what you see is guys milling around at the 56-minute mark. They're like, we're going in, but they don't go in. Everybody's, quote, looking for the keys, even though the door wasn't locked. And also, even, I didn't know nobody asked for the keys. Earlier, colossal cluster, the hand sanitizer thing we referenced. Just put this up there on the screen. Just look at this guy. He's got a helmet on, he's got his vest on, he's getting hand sanitizer, fist bumping. People were checking their phones, people are text messaging, making phone calls. You can say, which they have, and blamed Pete Arredondo, who was the chief of police, who made the call not to go in. But you guys were all right. And ultimately, it was the Border Patrol guys at the end who were so disturbed that they even went in. Although, to be fair,
that's what we knew at Sandy Hook. And I'll tell you, the teachers in Uvalde that died, I guarantee they died while trying to protect those children. They didn't have bulletproof vests. They didn't have guns. They didn't have ballistic shields. All they had was their bodies. And for those officers to stand out in the hallway when they had enough equipment to go in, it just, for some reason, it boggles the mind. I don't understand it. They basically gave up on their entire oath. And as far as I'm concerned, every single one of them should be fired. They can no longer be officers because at the most basic level, they're not willing to put themselves at risk for other people. Whatever type of a test that you need to prove it, then you're sitting there listening to children get killed and you don't even try to stop it. I don't understand it.
The parents are calling for Chief Arredondo to be fired, but what I'm hearing you say is he does not carry the sole responsibility here for accountability.
Correct. If he's in the hallway.
Although, to be fair, you can see that they were standing out there for a little long, too.
They're milling around there for a fucking hour, too.
Yeah, so, look, we're not, there's some heroes, I don't know who they are. I think the biggest one is probably the guy whose wife was killed and called him and was texting him from the room. He tried to go in. They literally held him back, stopped him. You can actually see some of that in the video, too. So, I don't know. That image with the guy, it just really sticks with me.
They're so casual. I mean, they're all just so casual. Like, there's nothing going on. Like, this is no big deal. Just hanging around in their tough guy little outfits, like they're badasses when they're too fucking cowardly to go in and rescue these kids. I mean, they didn't have the kids' screams edited out in real time. They heard that. Right. They heard that gunfire in those classrooms.
Most senior ranking person, perhaps he could call himself the officer in charge. But when you're part of that initial team to try to go in and take out an active shooter, there really is no rank. There's one mission, one goal, and everybody should have that same goal in mind.
They could hear.
The fact that none of those other officers decided to push him out of the way and do what they knew was right, I guarantee they're going to take that to the grave with them. They're going to have to live with that decision forever. It's not a fight or flight situation. Like, I can understand that if in a heartbeat you get scared and you run away, but these officers had minutes, hours to decide whether or not they were going to try to put themselves in danger and perhaps get killed while trying to save a person's life, or to sit back, be safe, and let somebody else do it. And so at the most basic core, they were cowards, and all of them should be fired.
None of those police officers ended up going to the hospital because none of them were injured. That was a total lie and part of their cover-up as an excuse for why they did not ultimately go in.
And let me emphasize something that I know you all know. But the reality is, as horrible as what happened, it could have been worse. The reason it was not worse is because law enforcement officials did what they do. They showed amazing courage by running toward gunfire for the singular purpose of trying to save lives. And it is a fact that because of their quick response, getting on the scene, being able to respond to the gunman and eliminate the gunman, they were able to save lives. Unfortunately, not enough. But I want to make sure that
please don't look away.
Everybody knows, all of the law enforcement agencies and groups that are involved and were involved in this process. The Texas Rangers are leading the investigation, and they are supported by the Texas Department of Public Safety Highway Patrol, the Texas Department of Public Safety Criminal Investigative Division, DPS Aircraft,
remember the officers,
DPS Intelligence and Counterterrorism Division.
They could hear. There was no editing out of that moment.
Of a serial killer. I mean, he blended in. You know, the president of his church congregation, Boy Scout leader, you know, lived in the suburbs outside of Wichita. I mean, he blended in. Scout leader, you know, lived in the suburbs outside of Wichita. I mean, he blended in. Boy Scout leader, you know, lived in the suburbs outside of Wichita. He blended in.
All right, joining me now is CNN's Shimon Prokupecz. Shimon, I want to be clear about something. We don't know exactly where in the timeline this fits. However, what this does show us is something we have been hearing about. The parents were on the scene in despair, but also it does seem in frustration that they could not get inside to help their children.
Yeah, this is, you know, it's just so hard to watch. And it's the screams and to listen to these parents. And now we, you know, knowing what we know, what happened in there, I just can't imagine what these people were going through in those moments. You know, we have seen reports that there were parents who were on scene hearing gunshots, I mean, and knowing that their kids were inside and they couldn't go in and do anything. But as to the video, it does appear, though, in that video that the police response is already there. There's a heavier police response. You're seeing sheriff's deputies. You're seeing other officers with heavily armed weaponry, right? It's what you would see in a kind of a situation like this. But like you said, John, we don't know how, what time this was taken and how far into the incident this was taken. But it's clear that it was still a very active scene, that they were still the police were still dealing with the situation. And I was talking to some city officials this morning about this, and they said that when a lot of the family members got here, they just wanted answers. They wanted to know what was going on, and no one could provide answers for them. And I'm just recalling that day and how long it took for the information to get out about what happened here. And these parents, this went on for hours, John. Remember, they went to the Civic Center where they were waiting to get notified about their kids, if their kids were one of the victims. There was no editing into the night that this went on. It's just, it's gut-wrenching. It's just so hard to watch and so painful. And again, you know, we are still waiting for so many answers here from the police.
What you can see is the sense of helplessness that these parents have. Parents who'd be willing to do anything. I guarantee you, willing to do anything to put themselves in the way of a shooter for their children right there. We don't know when this is, but Shimon, what we do know is there was a period of time, how long is unclear, but a period of time when law enforcement was on the scene in some number, and they were not going in to confront the shooter. And that's the period where there are still unanswered questions.
Right, that is that period, that hour or so of when the gunman is inside. There are still gunshots coming from there. There's exchange of gunfire. What's not really clear is you know, the lieutenant told you this morning that those 2 officers were shot as they were either going into the school or by the door.
He made it sound like it was inside.
Like, yeah, to me it certainly sounded like it was, you know, how badly were these officers injured? You know, they retreated. They just, and we don't know the severity of their injuries. He did say they're non-life-threatening. How were they shot? What was the situation here? But, you know, where were the backup officers, and why weren't more officers in there already on scene? You know, it's a small town, small police departments. I get all that, but those questions need to be answered.
Between the time when those officers were first met with gunfire and then the attempt that did ultimately break down the door, what was the nature of that pause between those 2 periods? That's what I'm trying to get at there. And it is during that period that we are now hearing stories about parents who arrived on the scene. The Washington Post spoke to Javier Casares, who is the father of Jacqueline Casares, who was killed here. And Javier told the Washington Post, he says, there were 5 or 6 of us fathers hearing the gunshots, and police officers were telling us to move back. We didn't care about us. We wanted to storm the building. We were saying, let's go, because that's how worried we were, and we wanted to get our babies out. So these fathers were willing to go in. Why were they stopped?
Right, I can tell you right now, as a father myself, I would want to go in too, but it's a volatile situation. We have an active shooter situation. We're trying to preserve any further loss of life. We cannot have, and as much as they want to go into that school, we cannot have individuals go into that school, especially if they're not armed. So we also have officers that arrive on scene. There's so many different components involved in an active shooter situation. We have officers that arrive on scene trying to set up a perimeter, so we cannot have any other individuals try to go into that school. But I understand, and I completely understand, because I can tell you as a father myself, I would want to go into that school whether I was armed or not armed to save my child. But again, it's a very volatile situation. There's so many components involved, a lot of unanswered questions, and that's what we're trying to provide by doing a thorough investigation.
Is because
too cowardly to go in and rescue these kids. I mean, they didn't have the kids' screams edited out in real time. They heard that. They heard that gunfire in those classrooms where they're.
Remember, the officers there, they could save lives. There was no editing out.
And it is a fact the way he was shooting that because of their quick response, getting on the scene, being able to respond to the gunman and eliminate the gunman.
What's the safest way to do this? I'm not trying to get clapped out. What's the safest way to do this? I'm not trying to get clapped out.
No one tried to go into the room for another 70 minutes.
I honestly didn't think anybody was in there besides the gunman, because I just honestly thought that they were in the cafeteria, because it seemed like our lights were off, and it seemed like it was really quiet. I didn't hear any screaming, any yelling. I literally didn't hear anything. You felt it your entire head. There's something wrong. You would think there was kids would be yelling and screaming. Like a
officers after officers said that because it was so silent, they didn't hear any screams or any indication that a child was inside that wing, that they believed it was empty, even though it was the middle of a school day on one of the last days of the semester.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing.
We couldn't hear the kids. We couldn't hear him shooting anybody or anything like that. So I guess that's why they were waiting to make entry, because we didn't know what was going on in there. It was too quiet.
I guess in your mind, did you think there was kids in that room?
I knew there was a possibility because of school, but I didn't know for sure that there was kids in the room. Again, it was really quiet, and I went to elementary school. You have your little your science class where you walk out, or PE, or different times of the day, and hopefully, other activities. I know it was also the end of the year, so I was like, maybe they're doing something else, not in their classrooms. But that was kind of wishful thinking.
Man, that hallway was so quiet after the shots were done. You could literally hear yourself breathing. You didn't hear any kids, you didn't hear any teachers, nothing. I do remember even asking Pete, hey, is this building clear? Is it just maybe one or two classrooms? And he's like, he said, I do not know, because like I said, you didn't hear anybody.
I don't hear any screaming. And usually I would think, I put myself in a position of being that age, I'd probably be like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's fight or flight.
No screaming, no yelling, and it's almost like, okay, maybe this place is empty.
He said, I don't want to die today. Specifically, he said, I don't want to get clapped out today. The children certainly were more brave than the police. One officer yelled into that room, if there's anybody in there, let us know. The child cried out, said, I'm in here. The gunman went back into that room. 4 shots were fired, and that child was killed.
Amy Goodman and Democracy Now!
Stated he's got the shooter in room 111 or 112. He's going to be armed with the rifle. Repeat, armed with the rifle. He's requesting for SWAT by the funeral home south of the building.
But from the footage and audio we've reviewed, no one is told that someone has been shot.
Chief Arredondo, he doesn't, according to what we have obtained in body camera footage and call logs, seem to convey that information to anyone else. This is the first indication that now someone is injured.
The chief was not asked about this in his interview with investigators, and he didn't respond to our request for comment. A few moments before the 911 call from the teacher, on the other end of the hall from Chief Arredondo, one of the officers says that the gunman is inside his wife's classroom. The officers try to confirm that classes are in session.
See if the class is in there right now or if they're somewhere else.
The classroom should be in session right now. The class should be in session, Ms. Mirella.
It's going to be Ruben's girl.
19, your status?
He's in a classroom. Yeah, with kids.
15 minutes later, the officer, Ruben Ruiz, gets a call from his wife, Eva Morelis.
Ruben. She said she shot Johnny.
He wanted to get in there. We're trying to hold him back. He's like, hey, Eva's in there. She's shot. Like, we need to get in there, these kids. And we know we need to get in there, but we don't have the right equipment.
We're waiting. We got a negotiator and we're waiting for more shields.
I didn't even bother throwing my rifle plates at all. Like I said, we didn't have any shields, no flashbangs, no nothing that we could use to create a distraction to not only, not sound selfish, but make sure we go home at the end of the day, but at least more of these kids can go home at the end of the day. Understand this is the job we signed up for. Yeah, we put our life on the line, but none of us have never been in this type of situation. None of us ever thought any of the situation would ever happen here in Raleigh Valley.
In their interviews, officers explained that one of the reasons they didn't try to go into the class was the lethal nature of the AR-15's ammunition, which can puncture body armor.
He could just wait for me and just pop people at the door as they're coming in. He's gonna take us out like butter. No equipment. No equipment to hold that type of round up.
The gunman had dropped a backpack full of ammunition outside the school.
I think that was kind of holding most of us back because of what we were hearing. We found out that the backpack had
30 plus magazines full of 223 rounds in there, so that kind of realized we weren't equipped to make entry into their room without several casualties. Going back now, that kind of haunts me that if it was a pistol or something, it would have been maybe a different thought process.
At that point, we had no choice but just to wait and try to get something that had better coverage where we could actually stand up to him. At that point, we just secured the scene and just kept him contained into what we thought at that point was that one classroom.
But we still tried to do the best that we could. We were there. We were trying to make sure that he didn't go to any other rooms. I'm kind of like numb to the situation. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared, bro. Sure. Like,
Had anybody gone through that door,
yes, sir,
he would have killed whoever it was.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we can only carry so many ballistic vests on you. That 223 round would have gone right through you and through the door. I mean, he was ready.
Yes, sir.
He was ready for us.
"24 minutes into the standoff, there are now dozens of officers from multiple agencies on the scene. Uvalde County Sheriff Deputy Raimundo Lara is in front of room 102, the room the teacher called from nearly 20 minutes earlier.
When I go in, I take a tactical position where I'm laying down, I'm on the corner, and it was believed that they asked to, well, hey, the building's clear, is the building clear? And I said, yes. Ready? And I was like, my feet need to be a little bit more comfortable, so I get up, open the door, and I said, my feet need. Popped it open so I could stick my leg in and lay back down and aim at the classroom where this suspect's at.
Hey, I need cover. You got more kids. All right, this is what we're gonna do. Y'all gotta come out this door. Y'all gotta take a left and then follow the cops. Okay? Take the left. Go fast. Go.
And so we start pulling them out, and we're breaking the blinds and pulling them out, and I could just see how scared they were. Sorry.
No, you're good, bud. Hey, take your time. Take your time. When you take a break, you step out here. You're good. Take your time. Man, this is incredibly traumatic.
These cops are right here. Bro, there's a fucking school and these fucking cops are telling everybody to leave while everybody's here trying to pick up their fucking kids. They're saying that the shooter's in the new building. I don't know if they had a new building. Look, they're just all fucking parking outside, man. They need to go in there.
Where's it at? 320, 302, that's a negative, sir. That's a negative. We do not have a command post at this time.
Look at that shit, bro. They're all in there.
As officers
doing
waited for
shit, but
reinforcements
standing
from
outside.
tactical units, no one established an official command post to guide the response or designated an officer in charge.
Like, our kids are there, man.
Are we just waiting for more check or what's going on? They're gonna come in, DPS Ranger. Somebody and they're gonna come in.
All the parents are going to the front.
I got Vortex on the way. I need an OIC out here.
All the parents are going to the front.
All the parents are going to the front. Just shoot them already. Shit.
Who's in charge?
Man, y'all can't be like that, man.
Who's in
Y'all
charge?
can't be like that when there's people.
I'm a patrol officer.
Get across the street.
I can't.
Because I'm having to deal with you. Get across the street.
I'm not in there. I'm not in the hallway. I'm not talking to a gunman. I'm not talking to the guy who's talking to a gunman. No communication is coming back out to me. So there's got to be someone else. There's got to be someone else that's in charge. Someone tell me what to do.
You know that there are kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
But chain of command is everything.
6-year-old kids in there. They don't know how to defend themselves from a shooter.
Take them the fuck out.
Dozens of officers said they didn't know who was in charge, that it was chaos. What experts said an incident commander would have been able to do in the situation is coordinate that communication.
They're letting the kids out over there.
Kind of take larger stock of what the scene is and help develop a
So there was officers on the hallway on one side of the room, and those officers in the hallway on the other side of the room. And Chief Arredondo was on the other side of the room where I was not. So there was like two groups on two different sides of the hallways. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I never heard anybody actually say, hey, I'm incident commander or anything like that.
Did you feel that the chief was the incident commander, or at least the person in charge?
Yes. I mean, as far as the person in charge, yes. If he had told me to do something, yes.
Did you ever hear Chief Arredondo say, hey, I'm the incident commander?
No. He was on the other side of the hallway. He wasn't on my side of the hallway.
Did anybody in that hallway say, hey, I'm the incident commander?
On my side?
On your side, the other side, anybody in that hallway while you guys were in that hallway, if you remember.
Serial killer. I mean, he blended in.
Don't remember, but
you know, the president of his church congregation, Boy Scout leader, you know, lived in the suburbs outside of Wichita. I mean, he blended in.
Chief Arredondo told a state legislative committee and the Texas Tribune that he never viewed himself as the officer in charge. He defended his actions.
This is Sergeant Gillis on the stand.
And you would not change a thing?
No.
He testifies the incident tarnished his reputation, a claim Huff is ready for.
But you had previously had excessive force complaints for punching a woman in the face?
You know, the president of his church
there was
congregation.
Questions on it, allegations, yeah.
You had allegations against you for
outside of
sexually harassing women at the Starbucks where you would do your paperwork?
I don't think it was that wordage, but yeah.
Also for inappropriately selling weapons?
Yep.
Voiding traffic tickets for friends and family?
Yes, I did that.
5 to 10 inquiries about using excessive force by Internal Affairs?
Sounds probably right.
You've been placed on leave with pay 4 times?
Yes, ma'am.
What types of incidents cause an officer to be placed on leave with pay?
Shooting incidents where somebody dies or there's substantial bodily harm to that person.
Training's never enough, but we have trained. We don't get to train every month. That'd be great in a perfect world. You can't afford it because we have school to take care of, and I can't pull everybody out for training. But in the summer, that's what we do because that's our free time.
Never have I gone to an active shooter school training where they literally sit there with the door closed and locked.
As the confusion was mounting, Chief Arredondo had been trying to evacuate students from classroom 109, but the door was locked.
Get one of the school officials out there to give you a master key to the rooms. Master key to the rooms. Maintenance guy has it. Okay. As soon as I clear this room, I'm going to verify what's been vacated, guys, before we do any kind of reaching. What time's on our side right now? We've got more kids in there, but we're going to save the lives of the other one. What is it saying? Protect us alive more. Okay.
Chief Arredondo learns that the Border Patrol Tactical Unit, BORTAC, has arrived.
We're waiting for Master P to clear this room. We're going to get rid of the kids first before we do any breaching. Okay? Oh, yeah, for sure. So the guys said, calm down for me. Hey!
Training tells us to do, but we haven't contained. There's probably going to be some deceased in there, but we don't need any more from out here. We don't need any more from out here.
So the guys, calm down for me. Hey!
Hello. I'm calling with the police. Are you okay? No, there's a school shooting.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I have multiple units there. Are you with officers or are you barricaded somewhere?
I'm in the classroom. What's the classroom number? 1012. 112. 112. 112, yes, ma'am.
What's your name, ma'am?
Chloe Toilet, please hurry. There's a lot of dead bodies. I know how to handle these situations. My dad taught me when I was a little girl. And hope one of my teachers are still alive, but they're shot.
Okay, please. Someone's trying to get you, Chloe, okay?
Please hurry. I can't wait.
The police dispatcher stays on the phone with Chloe and alerts officers over the radio.
Shots fired. Where's the game plan? You have a conference on the line.
Hey, what was that?
In the room
For the victims, child call 911 says you are full of victims. The room is full of victims. Child victims. Child. Hold on, let me get. We're in here.
The commander of the Border Patrol's tactical unit, Paul Guerrero, arrives at the north end of the hall.
We have, if there's kids and they're saying that there's killing people, or is it already? They said mummy shot. Did your mummy shot? The subject, no one knows about the kids or anything else like that. But
I know there's the kids, the teachers in there.
But they're just doing it.
The officers tell him the gunman is in a classroom down the hall and that the door is locked.
When I walked in and saw all those officers there, officers, agents, American law enforcement, they advised me that the door was locked. As soon as it closes, it's locked from the inside. You gotta have a key or someone from the inside to open it.
While officers are looking for keys, a Border Patrol medic arrives after hearing about Chloe's call.
Daughter was left for dead. Left for dead. And you said they did the right thing? These police officers signed up to do a job.
And let me emphasize something that
they didn't do it.
I know you won't know.
They just had our number.
But the reality is, as horrible as what happened, it could have been worse. The reason it was not worse is because law enforcement officials did what they did.
Sergeant Coronado and other officers
they showed amazing courage by running toward gunfire for the singular purpose of trying to save lives. And it is a fact that because of their quick response, getting on the scene, being able to respond to the gunman and eliminate the gunman,
difficult to control.
They were able to save lives.
There were times where some of the people in the crowd, and not all
not
of
enough.
them, but some of them wanted to get to an area that was there, and the officers that were trying to get the ones that were trying to get
This story broke late last night, and it is infuriating the parents of those Robb Elementary victims. An officer who was at Robb Elementary that day left her job at DPS and is under investigation, however, now working as a Uvalde schools officer. This was a story that CNN broke last night. ABC News has since confirmed they named Crimson Elizondo as the officer, and parents in Uvalde recognized her as one of the faces they saw in the body camera video. From that day, 19 children and 2 teachers were killed. On that day, she was working for DPS, one of the officers seen arriving just a couple minutes after the shooting began, and CNN reports she was one of 7 DPS officers currently under investigation for their actions or lack thereof. As a Uvalde CISD officer, she is now protecting school children again, this time at Uvalde Elementary. That's the new school that Robb Elementary students attend, and that's where she was recognized. Adding to the anger, there's a portion of the body camera video where Elizondo is asked if her son was at the school, and she responds by saying this.
No, if my son had been in there, no, I would not have been outside, I promise you that.
And the parents of the victims venting online on Twitter about that comment. Kimberly Garcia, she is the mother of Ameriejogarza, who was killed at Robb Elementary. She says, it wasn't your baby, right? That's why you didn't go in. Officer Elizondo, she was there within minutes, but her child wasn't in there, so it didn't matter. My child was in there. Another mother, Gloria Cazares, the mother of Jackie Cazares, says, what mother would leave another mother's babies in those rooms to die? This is a developing story. We're not sure yet if the district knew that Elizondo was under investigation.
So that's how to get into classrooms 111 and 112, which they would later learn are connected. They remained focused on finding a key.
You guys, calm down for a minute.
The shooter.
Sir, if you can hear me, please put your firearm down, sir. We don't want anybody else hurt.
Arredondo then gets on the phone, and you can hear him suggesting a sniper shoot the gunman through a window. Listen to what he says nearly 1 hour after the gunman began shooting. At 12:20, more than 15 officers from local, state, and federal agencies begin slowly moving down the hall, behind shields with body armor and helmets. But then they stop and wait another 30 minutes before taking down the gunman.
376 officers in total responded to the scene on May 24th. They came from nearly 24 agencies. This is the breakdown from the Texas House Investigative Committee report. The most came from Border Patrol with 149. 91 were from Texas DPS, 25 from Uvalde PD, 16 from San Antonio SWAT, and another 16 from the Uvalde County Sheriff's Office. And that House report found no villains other than the shooter, but instead it pointed to systemic failures and poor decision making. It also found law enforcement failed to prioritize saving the lives of innocent victims over their own safety. But the committee says it's unclear whether responders could have saved more lives if they acted sooner.
Serial killer. I mean, he blended in. You know, the president of his church congregation, Boy Scout leader, you know, lived in the suburbs outside of Wichita. I mean, he blended in.
Angelique Gomez is sharing her story of the day she made a split-second decision to save her kids from the shooter who took the lives of 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary. Gomez says she and other parents were frustrated by police who stood outside the school. Well, when she tried to gather the parents to run inside, police handcuffed her and tackled some parents to the ground. Well, once she calmed down, she says police took the cuffs off, and that's when she took off, hopped a nearby fence, and ran inside the school. Well, she managed to get to one of her son's classrooms and helped lead out the entire class. But her other son was still inside the school.
So I kind of just got on one knee and I just kind of said a prayer real quick, like, because I could hear the kids screaming, "I want my mom," from the cafeteria.
Gomez says she made it to her other son's room and got him and one of his friends out. Weeks after the shooting, she says she's being threatened with arrest by Uvalde police for tampering with an open investigation of an active shooter. Instead, she wants Police Chief Pete Arredondo fired and held accountable. Uvalde police have not responded to repeated questions for comment on Gomez's case to our sister station, WFAA in Dallas, or her attorney.
mean, to me, it's clear that they're covering up something massive. Now, we don't know what that is. Obviously, I'm speculating here. I'm going to give that a million caveats. But there's a possibility that but given the extent to which they're trying to cover these things up, you can't rule out that possibility.
The massacre at Columbine High School 25 years ago, and the 47 minutes it took for law enforcement to enter that high school, marked a major shift in how law enforcement leaders think about responding to mass shootings. It is now widely understood by law enforcement agencies across the country that in active shooter incidents, time is not on the side of law enforcement. Every second counts. And the priority of law enforcement must be to immediately enter the room and stop the shooter with whatever weapons and tools officers have with them. That is the approach responding officers first employed when they arrived at Robb Elementary School. But within minutes of arriving inside the school, officials on scene transitioned from treating the scene as an active shooter situation to treating the shooter as a barricaded subject. This was the most significant failure. That failure meant that law enforcement officials prioritized a protracted evacuation of students and teachers in other classrooms instead of immediately rescuing the victims trapped with the active shooter.
I mean, to me, it's clear that they're covering up something massive.
Negotiate with the subject instead of entering the room and confronting him. It meant that officials asked for and waited for additional responders and equipment instead of following generally accepted active shooter practice and moving toward the shooter with the resources they had. It meant waiting for a set of keys to open the classroom door, which the report concludes was likely unlocked anyway. And it meant that the victims remained trapped with the shooter for more than an hour after the first officers arrived on scene.
We're also following a developing story out of Uvalde, Texas. Local media there say a special grand jury has been convened to investigate the police response to the 2022 mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. The report comes after the U.S. Justice Department released a scathing report they called the law enforcement response to the shooting a series of cascading failures, saying officers prioritized their own safety over saving lives and had no urgency even as children and teachers lay dying or crying out for help in the classrooms. Family members tell Scripps News they want accountability.
This is something that we're gonna have to, live with for the rest of our lives, and sometimes, when we have, meetings or stuff comes up like this around the shooting, it kind of is a little bit of traumatizing. But we always have to remember what our ultimate goal is, and that's for, the accountability and for other kids not to go through this again,
According to the Uvalde Leader News, this grand jury will decide whether officers will face criminal charges over the response.
Exclusive. If a prosecutor wants to get an indictment, bet your ass they will get it. They will get it, because that saying, it doesn't take anything to indict a ham sandwich, is fucking true. It doesn't take anything, and I'm a former prosecutor. 5 years, I indicted motherfuckers for 5 whole years. Okay? And I'm telling you, it don't take shit to do it. So the fact that Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, the most recent one, and all the others that have been down the line that have come back with what's called a no true bill, meaning that there is no indictment, meaning the case is over and the case is dismissed, that's orchestrated. Okay? Understand that shit. Know that that's orchestrated. Okay? Be pissed off. If you're gonna be pissed off about something, the legislatures need to change the way grand jury presentations are conducted. They shouldn't be ex parte proceedings. It shouldn't be so that the defense has you have no representation. There are some times where indictments are being presented or evidence in the grand jury and you don't even know. Okay? They have secret proceedings. Okay? And the whole grand jury presentation is fucking secret. Right? Secret. What that tell you? Anytime some shit is done in the secret, in the dark, the chances for abuse I mean, damn. It's like, how fucking dumb do they expect us to be? We can't, I don't, listen, I don't want to fight no more. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck. I'm done with this shit. You can't keep banging your head against a wall and expecting the wall to give. That shit is cement. These people hate us. They hate us. They are killing not just us. They're not killing just our men. They're not killing just our women. They are killing our children.
Just wanted to let you know that I do agree also. You should not have closed sessions. And plain and simple, if you want to start for the community, the families to start healing, you just have to terminate him, do it in front of them. And let me tell you, that goes a long way. So that's what you should do today.
Okay.
Not let it go on. So just terminate him in front of here.
In the whole grand jury presentation.
Do the right thing. Thank you.
Right?
Thank you, Mr.
Secret.
Rosenberg.
What'd that tell you?
I didn't sign up, but I have one comment that I'd like to make, or I'd like one question that I'd like to ask y'all. As I was driving over here, I passed by and I saw the band practicing and the high steppers and everybody out there practicing, and I didn't see one law enforcement out there protecting them, but yet y'all have all this coverage. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, item number 3. The next item on the agenda is to consider the request for a hearing from Peter Redondo regarding the termination of his non-Chapter 21 contract. If at any time the board is to hear a matter involving the appointment, employment evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, the matter generally is heard in closed session, and this has been posted on tonight's agenda as such. Under the Texas Open Meetings Act, personnel items will be in close unless the employee who is the subject of the deliberation or hearing requests a public hearing, and then that request will be honored as such. At 4:48 p.m. today, Mr. Redondo's attorney notified the district's council that neither he nor Mr. Redondo will be attending tonight. We will return, wrong one. Accordingly, we will conduct the hearing in closed session. Prior to that time, however, the board is going to go into closed session to consult with the board's attorney regarding legal and procedural issues related to recommended termination. Last, we have Ms. Caitlin Gonzalez.
I'm here today to make a statement. If a law enforcement's job is to protect and serve, why didn't they protect and serve my friends and teachers on May 24th? I have messages for Pete Arredondo and all the law enforcement that were there that day. Turn in your badge and step down. You don't deserve to wear one.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Appreciate it. And I was mistaken, I do have one more person, Rosenberg Risa.
Just wanted to let you know that I do agree also. You should not have closed sessions.
And so, you know, my feet need to be a little bit more comfortable, so I get up.
The first few moments of a response is crucial, is what experts said. This is the best moment in time to engage the shooter and rescue any victims. So officers initially did that, and then they stumbled back when they're grazed by bullets. And that ends up really setting the stage for the rest of the response. No one tried to go into the room for another 70 minutes.
I really have no words that would adequately, express. I really have no words that would adequately, express, the concern that we have, or there's nothing I can really say to the parents, I'll be honest with you.
On the day of the shooting, Shortly after leaving the
I mean,
scene,
to me, it's clear that they're
Border
covering up
Patrol
something
agent called
massive.
his
Now,
daughter's school in a nearby town. A body camera he'd picked up was still recording.
I need to talk to the principal as soon as I possibly can.
Okay, can I ask what this is in reference to?
I'm a border patrol agent. That's what I do, and I'm out of Uvalde station.
Okay.
And have you heard anything or no?
Yes, we heard that there was an active shooter, but then that he was in police custody.
Yes, ma'am. There's some stuff that was extremely there's some issues that I have with the way things. I want to be able to talk to somebody to just give you some advice and stuff that kind of slowed us down a little bit, that maybe would be able to. God forbid something happen.
Right.
Y'all aren't set up for it.
Okay.
There's nothing I can really say to the parents, I'll be honest with you.
I mean, to me, it's clear that they're covering up something massive. Now,
jobs. The gentleman you're about to hear from, at this point, has nothing to lose.
It's heartbreaking to see these people that I used to work with take their lives for just ridiculousness that's going on within the department.
Soren Prime is speaking out in hopes of helping the LA County Sheriff's deputies who would like to, but can't.
Anybody that speaks up about anything that's wrong within the department will be met with retaliation no matter what, hands down.
Soren used to be a proud LA County deputy sheriff until the workload simply became too much.
I will work 6 days a week, 16, 18-hour shifts, and that leaves us with really no time to do anything. The majority of the other partners that I've worked with will work even more than that. They'll have 0 days off, sometimes 2-3 weeks in a row, sometimes a month.
When Soren expressed to his superiors that he was starting to suffer from depression and anxiety, he says no one cared.
They literally gave me more hours. They told me, you signed up for this job. You don't belong here as a deputy sheriff.
Learning about the recent 4 deputy suicides angered Soren enough to go public. He says there are many other suicides we never hear about.
You just, you ask, hey, whatever happened to Deputy so-and-so? And the common thing to say is, oh, they ate their gun. And we're like, what? How is that possible? We just saw him yesterday. And, they just shrug it off and go online, we check the news, nothing.
Perhaps that is why someone in the department has been sending anonymous letters to citizens. This one states, things cannot continue the way they are. We work multiple overtime shifts a week, often only getting a couple of hours of sleep between continuous double shifts. This is the third anonymous letter to the community. What are your thoughts on that?
And they're asking for help in any way that they can.
Soren says he was forced out of the department in December.
I worked so hard, and for it to really end like this is just, it's heartbreaking.
But he says he doesn't need the uniform to do the right thing for his former fellow deputies.
The Los Angeles Sheriff's
I'm not
Department
sure
needs
anymore.
help.
Because every time I turn on the television,
We swore an
every
oath
time I look to the internet, I'm
to
seeing
look
people
after
arrested
everyone
or
there in the
cited for
county,
going to church,
to uphold the amendments,
for traveling on the roadways,
to
for
protect
going
the innocent.
surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park
But what
with their
about us?
families, or doing nails.
Sheriff
out of
Robert
their-
Luna
out of their
issued a
own
long
house.
statement that says in part, the persistent
House is a place of
staffing
business.
shortage throughout the
And having
years,
undercover agents go
contractual
there
obligations in the jails and
arrest them
contract cities,
charge them
and
with
mandatory
what?
overtime
With a crime?
cannot continue
I
at the
don't know what
detriment
crime
of our personnel.
people are
My executive team is
committing
reviewing our
by doing
commitments to
nails
find
in their own
additional
house.
resources to relieve
But
staffing
we're seeing this
shortages
more
and
and
support the
more.
service we provide to LA County residents. Now, Alex Christine, this is a problem that has been going on for years, and it has only gotten worse.
But we're
I'll send
seeing
it
this
back to you guys
more
and
and more
residents.
and more.
Now, Alex Christine, this is a problem that has been going on for years, and it has only gotten worse. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
He was the personification of evil.
To be a successful serial killer like this, like he was, one of the things he knew he had to do was he had to establish the trappings of a normal life. Everything else was a facade to hide his true self. We start realizing we might be dealing with someone who's done this before. He wanted a level of anonymity, but he didn't want his crimes to be anonymous. He could kill anyone, anywhere.
He talked about having these urges and these dark.
They prey on the vulnerable people who don't have a voice, for so many reasons can't or won't speak up. And if they do report, they're silenced or nothing happens. That's just sending a big message, like, we don't care if you're raped. We don't care if what this cop does to you. He can do whatever he wants, and we're not going to do anything about it.
Lowell Metro Police Department, Public Integrity Unit, official statement, case number.
This interview is being conducted at the Public Integrity Unit office.
Are you giving this interview of your own free will?
Yes.
Well, we were pulled over and got out of the car and we were separated.
I had some possession of hypodermic needle charges.
I told him that I was on parole and I couldn't afford a charge.
And he said, well, give me your number so I can work with you.
He's like, I'll call you later tonight and we'll discuss your charges.
You're gonna have to come down here and fill out paperwork.
I filled out the paperwork. He took pictures of me, like made me turn around.
Within probably 10 minutes of the text conversation that went to just different sexual comments.
We'll have sex in my truck and I'll make these charges go away.
He sent me a picture.
What was that picture of?
His genitalia.
His penis?
Yeah.
How many times do you think you had warrants and he let you go without locking you up?
He's never let me go without giving him head. Why did you continue texting with him when he's texting all this?
Because I had court coming up.
He's a narcotic police. He could say, I witnessed her buying drugs, and that's going to violate my parole.
He tried to have that leverage over me. I knew he had that over my head.
He's a cop. He has a gun. He has total authority over me. What am I going to do?
And every one of the defendants said that they were doing okay in their careers until they were inducted into this gang called the Goon Squad. Okay, so Deadman in himself, there's so much sickness here, but any officer who you see that will whip out his private parts and attempt to put it in the mouth of a defendant on the side of the road, take his gun out, shoot it by the side of his head to make him believe he's gonna be killed, pull his pants down while handcuffed. This came out in court. Pull the man's pants down while handcuffed, grabbed his genitals, told him how the size of his genitals, then dry humped him. I said that it came out in court that Dedmon dry humped the man after they took him to a private house in another jurisdiction. I mean, you wouldn't believe it if you saw it in a movie, but I'm imagining it'll be that one day.
Assault just 2 weeks earlier when another member of the goon squad repeatedly tased a man and put his genitals in his mouth. While the charges focused on these two cases, the New York Times and Mississippi Today have revealed that deputies in the Rankin County Sheriff's Department have for decades barged into homes, handcuffed people, tortured them for information or confessions. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland issued a statement Thursday saying, quote, "The depravity of the crimes committed by these defendants cannot be overstated."
Started shooting everybody.
Gotta make this a code 11 also. We getting shots fired. We have numerous people inside.
It's supposed to be at McDonald's at 424 West Insatiable. It's a 245 shooting.
You couldn't see in the building because of the sun. They couldn't see anyone in there, and they also didn't know who was in there.
I was like wondering, where are the police? Where are the police? It just kept going on, and I know that's not like okay, and he's killing more people.
This newspaper was dated March 25, 1987. In a major setback for survivors of the 1984 massacre at a McDonald's restaurant in San Isidro, a state appellate court ruled Tuesday that San Diego cannot be held financially liable for alleged police errors in responding to the tragedy. Although police arrived within minutes of the shooting, it took officers 77 minutes of failures. All the while, the shooter James Huberty shot and killed 21 people and injured 15 more before a police sniper finally killed him. The shooter shot and killed 21 people and injured 15 more, and it took 77 minutes before police intervened and killed him. Police were exonerated. This will be the answers parents, the community, and overall taxpayers get in Uvalde. A statement or ruling from a judge said the police can in no way be charged with lulling Huberty's victims into a false sense of security, nor can the alleged 77 minutes of inaction by police reasonably be said to have increased the risk of harm to which the victims were subject, the judges said. In fact, in view of the sheer horror of the ordeal, it is difficult to imagine anything the police could have done or failed to do which would have made the risk any greater than that to which the victims were exposed before the police arrived.
Understanding pain, both physically and physiologically, it's important. When we understand what it does and what purpose it serves, it's just another thing that we can harness and that we can leverage as a weapon. I like it. Not like, hey, will you with me later? But maybe, maybe.
Well, now, I'm in the Middle East. Everything is a business. Even how we get married. You ever heard of the dowry shit? You know what a dowry is? I'd like your daughter. Can I have her? 150,000. You can have her all day long. You keep her. Don't bring her back.
I'd like to know that here. And their names are Uzi Garcia, Lexi Rubio, Jackie Caceres, Ameriejogarza, Tess Mata, Mike Rodriguez, Ellie Garcia, Rogelio Torres, Xavier Lopez, McKenna Elrod, Layla Salazar, Miranda Mathis, Nevaeh Bravo, JoseFlores Jr., Eliana Torres, Annabelle Rodriguez, Jayla Seguero, Alithia Ramirez, Eva Morales, and Irma Garcia.
There is much more about both tragic events. But let's just say that I am all wrong about this. Can someone please explain how the San Diego shooting took 21 lives and officers 77 minutes to act, and the shooter in Uvalde took 21 lives and 77 minutes to act? And if you just say